children, this is Roshni from Learno Hub, the free learning platform where you can learn math, science, tips and tricks all for free at learnohub.com. So today I have come with a very new lesson. So we are going to start electricity and circuits of class 6 science. Now, what is electricity? What comes to our mind when we think of electricity? Let's look at very simple things that happen around us. I need to switch on the light. What do? I simply switch it on and the bulb glows, right? I am feeling hot. I switch it on. The fan starts. Now, is this a magic? Not really. This is where electric current plays a role. How? What's happening inside? So that's exactly what we are going to study in electricity. Not just the fans and the lights and the tube lights and the bulbs. There are a lot of appliances inside our homes which uses electricity. You talk about a refrigerator, you talk about a washing machine, you talk about a mixer grinder, you talk about your computers, laptops, even your mobile phones. How do you charge your mobile phones? So everywhere you see that electricity plays a role. So what did we learn? We learned that electricity is very much useful in our day-to-day life, so we just can't ignore it. So let's get started. Let's learn about electricity. So a very common thing that we can relate to in regards to electric current is what can happen to somebody if he or she touches a wire carrying current directly with his or her fingers. So that person is going to experience an electric shock. Why? Because of the electric current which is flowing through that wire. Now you might say that I do see a lot of wires at my home, but if I touch them, I really do not get electric current all the time. So that's because the wire is not a naked wire. The wire may be covered with a plastic coating or another coating of an insulator which protects you from getting an electric shock. But otherwise, if you directly touch a wire which is carrying current, you will be experiencing an electric shock. Now the question is, what is this electric current which is flowing through the wire? Now it is because of this electric current flowing through the wire that the bulb glows, the tube light glows, the electric fan operates. So everything operates because of this current which is flowing through the wire, and that is why we have a wiring throughout our house. So everywhere you have a plug point for your television, you have a plug point for your refrigerator, and everywhere the wires connect them with each other. So what is this current which flows through the wire? Similarly, you would have also seen a lot of birds which tend to sit over the electric wires. Especially you get to see this scenario when you are at a railway platform. It's a very common scene from there. You see a lot of birds sitting on the wires, and many a times you see a lot of them die because of getting an electric shock from those wires. So here we will try to understand what is electric current, what generates electric current, and how can we glow a bulb, how can we make a circuit. So we are going to learn all the basics about electricity. So the first question is, what is electric current? So electric current is nothing but flow of electric charge. So flow of electric charge constitutes electric current. Now you might ask, what is electric charge? So forget about electric charge, forget about electric current. So just think of this simple scenario where you have a circuit, you have a bulb, and as soon as you switch it on, the bulb glows. So that's what happens at your home, right? So here this is drawn in a simplified way. This is an electric circuit. Now how have we drawn this? We will get to know as we move ahead with the lesson. So now our question is, what do we mean by electric charge? So these electric charge, you think of it in this way that there are particles. Let's say these are like small balls, and as these tiny balls, they move. So movement of these balls, it constitutes the flow of current. So these electric charges are nothing but these are very, very, very tiny particles which cannot be seen with our naked eye. So these particles are called electrons. Now, since they are electrons, that is why their flow is termed as electric current. Now, how do we measure electric current? That how much electric current has flown through a wire. So, we measure it as the rate of flow of charge. That is how fast these charges are moving, how fast the electrons are moving. That would decide how much current is flowing through the wire. So, if these electrons, which are drawn as balls here for better understanding. So if these balls are moving really fast one after another, that means a huge amount of current will be flowing through the wire. But if these balls are moving very slowly, that means a very small amount of current is flowing through the wire. So basically how fast these electrons are moving would decide how much electric current is flowing through the wire. Now another important thing is electric current flows only when these electrons are moving, because when they are moving, only then there is a flow, only then there is a current. Now if these electrons are staying at one place, if they are at rest, if they are not moving, then there is no electric current through the wire. So movement of these electric charges, or we can say flow of electrons, constitute electric current. Now we measure current in a unit called ampere, like how we have units for measuring different physical quantities. For example, we measure length in meters. That's what we learned in our previous lesson, right? That to measure distance we use meter, to measure length we use meter, to measure weight we use kgs. Similarly, to measure current we use a unit called ampere, which is denoted by a capital A. So this is the basic of electric current. In fact, this is what electric current is. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what are these electrons? I have never heard about electrons before. So, but today only for the first time you get to know that there are some tiny particles called electrons which move and constitute electric current. Now, you see so many things around yourself, right? So when you look around, you will see chairs, tables, sky, water, so many different things, other animals, a lot of things around you. Now, anything in this universe that occupies space, that occupies any sort of space, whether big space or small space or extremely tiny space, so anything that occupies space is matter. So basically anything that we see around ourselves, they are all matter, and this matter is made up of smaller units called molecules. So when you look at water, what is water? Water is nothing but H2O. That is, hydrogen and oxygen molecules form water. Similarly, when you look around yourself, you see so many different gases, like you see carbon dioxide, you see oxygen, you see methane. So all these, what are they? These are all molecules. So basically matter is made up of. Matter is anything around us, any object. Bottles, pen, pencils, paper, everything. In fact, our body also is matter because we occupy some space. If we are sitting on a chair, we are taking up that space on the chair. The chair is lying on the ground, so the chair is also occupying some space. So anything that is occupying space is matter, and all matter is made up of smaller units, and these smaller units are called molecules. So several molecules together form matter. Now, when you go even deeper, you see that each molecule is made up of even smaller particles called atom. So one molecule, it's like matter made up of many molecules, one molecule made up of many atoms, and when you even dig deeper, you get to see that atom consists of 3 types of particles. So these are called subatomic particles. So now it is all the more tiny. So in fact, molecules and atoms are things which we cannot see with our naked eye because they are very, very small. Matter is something that we can see, but molecule again is too small to be seen. Atoms are too small to be seen. Now obviously something of which atom is made up of, they are definitely going to be even smaller. So atom is made up of 3 types of particles. They are proton, neutron and electron. So basically anything around us contains all these particles, because anything around us is matter, and that matter contains molecules. Molecules contain atoms, and atoms contain proton, neutron, and electron. So these three particles, they are very much different from each other. So protons are positively charged particles, electrons are negatively charged particles, and neutron are neutrally charged particles. That is, neutrons do not have any charge. They are neither positively charged nor negatively charged. So these protons and neutrons are present at the center, and this center is positively charged, and it is called nucleus. So this is the structure of the atom. Now, I do not want to consume a lot of time talking about the structure of atom, because this is something which you are going to learn in your higher classes. So for now, you should just understand that anything around us is matter. Matter is made up of molecules. Each molecule is made up of atoms, and each atom is made up of electron, proton, and neutron. So these electrons which when flow constitute electric current. So basically, electrons are the ones which we are talking about right now. So now you can understand that from where do we get electrons, because basically anything around us contain electrons. Any object which we see, every object will have electrons within them. So now the question is, we said that in a wire, when these electrons move, that constitute electric current. Now, is there a specific direction in which these particles move, in which these electrons move? So, do we have a specific direction in which electric current flows? Now, what happened before was, electrons were not discovered long back. So electric current, people got to know about electric current even before electrons were discovered. So that time they did not know that these are the electrons which move and therefore constitute electric current. So they thought these are some particles, and they thought that these are positively charged particles which when flow constitute electric current. So they said, so the scientists that time said that the direction of current is going to be from the positive terminal of the battery towards the negative terminal of the battery, because that is the direction of flow of the positively charged particles. So this direction was termed as the conventional current, because that was the convention which was followed that time. But later, when electrons were discovered, scientists got to know that it was not the positively charged particles but the negatively charged electrons which constitute electric current. So that time they said that no, the direction of current should be from negative terminal towards the positive terminal. Now what happened? Both are opposite to each other. So in the earlier days, they said that current should flow from positive terminal of the battery towards negative terminal. Later they said it should move from negative terminal to positive terminal. So this created a confusion. So to avoid this confusion, so all this while I have been talking about positive terminal, negative terminal. So what are they? Now as I have mentioned before, that protons are positively charged particles, right? Now, in the earlier days, scientists thought that protons are the one because of which electric current is formed. So, when protons flow, electric current is formed. So, that was the thinking before. But after electrons were discovered, they got to know that these particles whose movement caused flow of current, they were not protons but electrons, which are the negatively charged particles. So when they thought that protons were the charge carriers, that time they assumed that since these are positively charged particles, so they will come from the positive end of the battery towards the negative. So you see, any battery, if you look at any cell at your house, maybe even if you look at the pencil battery, you will see that one side is positive, the other side is negative. So as per conventional current, the current would flow from the positive terminal of the battery towards the negative terminal of the battery. That means in this direction. Whereas as per electronic current, the current should flow from negative terminal to positive terminal of the battery. So basically the direction of conventional current and electronic current are just the opposite. Now this created a confusion. So some of them thought it is from positive to negative, some of them thought it is from negative to positive. So to avoid any kind of confusion, it was unanimously decided that the direction of current will always assumed to be the conventional current, because that had been followed from earlier days. However, actually the electrons flow from the negative terminal towards the positive terminal, but the direction of flow of current is always taken from positive to negative terminal, because that is the convention that has been followed since ancient times. So that is how the confusion with regards to direction of electric current was solved. So now we come to a very interesting topic. So in the previous slides, you saw that whenever you connect a bulb with a battery, the bulb starts glowing. So here we will look at all the possible scenarios which causes the bulb to glow, and what are those scenarios under which the bulb will not glow. So the first criteria that has to be met in order for a bulb to glow is that the entire electric circuit has to be complete. So if you look at this circuit, is the bulb glowing right now? No. So when will the bulb glow? So here this symbol represents the switch. So this represents switch. Now you will learn about these representations in class 7. So these are the various symbols which are used in a circuit diagram. Now whenever you switch it on, the bulb starts glowing. So why did this happen? Because now the circuit is complete. Now a lot of questions might be coming to your mind. The first question must be, what is circuit? I am using this term circuit over and again. But what exactly is a circuit? Let us look at this scenario. So this will help you to understand what a circuit is and what do we mean by a complete circuit. So let's say there is a pull or there is a bridge, and this bridge connects two towns A and B. So you can see a cyclist here, a person on the cycle. Now this person wants to reach from A to B. Okay, so what will he do? He will take his cycle and he will ride on his cycle, and he has to cross this bridge in order to reach B from A. Right? So what he needs this complete path. So this path has to be there over which he will ride his cycle, and that's how he will reach from A to B. Now let us say if somebody breaks this bridge in the middle. So let's say that the bridge is broken in the middle. So do you think that the cyclist will be able to reach town B? No, because in this portion there is no path over which he can ride his cycle. So as soon as he reaches here, he will have to stop. So as a result, the cyclist will not be able to reach B. Why? Because the path is not complete. So the same thing is true for this circuit also. So circuit is nothing but a path which is needed for the current to flow, because current is nothing but the flow of electrons. So electrons need a path on which they can move. So if there is no path, or if the path is broken, electrons will also not move, and if electrons are not moving, there is no current. It is as simple as that. So in this case, when the switch was off, the circuit was actually broken. So the path was broken. So the electrons were not able to move, and that is why the current was not flowing. As soon as we switch it on, the circuit is complete. So there is a complete path on which the electrons can move. So therefore this is very, very important, that a complete circuit is needed. Only if the circuit is complete, the bulb will glow. If the circuit is not complete, the bulb will not glow. So let's look at an electric circuit now. So electric circuit is a path for current to flow. Without path, the charges will not be able to move, the electrons will not be able to move. Now if there is no movement of electrons, then there is no electric current. So normally representing an electric circuit becomes a tedious task if we do not do it in a simple way, because when you look at the circuit will consist of a lot of wires, it will consist of a lot of batteries, bulb and other electrical components. Now when we want to represent that electric circuit on a piece of paper, now drawing a bulb, drawing a battery, all those things would become very tedious, and that is why we make use of a circuit diagram. So in this circuit diagram, instead of drawing a real bulb, we use a symbol which represents bulb. Similarly, instead of drawing a battery or a cell, we represent a symbol which represents a battery. So that's how we draw a circuit diagram. However, we will not learn about circuit diagram and their symbols right now. You will learn about them in class 7. But if you are curious to know about them, you can refer the video on physics class 7. So that's how we draw a circuit diagram using the conventional symbols. Okay, this circuit which you see here is an example of a circuit diagram where this represents a switch. This is the symbol for a switch. This is the symbol for a cell. This is these straight lines which you see. These are the symbols for wires. So that is how we draw a circuit diagram. Okay. So now the question is, we understood that if the circuit is complete, then the bulb will glow. Now the next question that comes to our mind is, why does the bulb glow? I mean, who allows the bulb to glow? So is it that if the only requirement that is here is that the circuit has to be complete? Many a times we see that the circuit is complete but still the bulb is not glowing because there are other factors involved as well. So let us look at this scenario. Now here the bulb glows because current is allowed to flow through the wire of the circuit. So if you see, the electrons are actually moving over these wires. So these wires are actually allowing the electrons to move. These wires are allowing current to flow through it, and that is why the current is flowing. So even if the circuit is complete, but if these wires, they do not allow current to move through it, in that case also current will not flow through the circuit and then the bulb will not glow. So here again, let us take the same example of the bridge, which will help you to understand it better. So in this case, let us say that the bridge is intact. So nobody has broken the bridge. So the bridge is there, the path is there. But let us say that the surface of the bridge is very slippery. It is like spilled with oil and water, which makes the surface very slippery, because of which this person is not able to ride his bicycle over it, and that's how he is not able to reach B. He is not able to cross the bridge. So in this case, the path is there, the path is complete, but the material of the path is such that it is not allowing the cyclist to move. So that means it is not necessary that all materials will allow current to flow through them. So there are certain materials which allow current to pass through them, whereas there are certain materials which do not allow current to pass through them. So only if the circuit contains materials which allow current to pass through them, only then the bulb will glow, because in that case only the current will actually flow through the circuit, and that's how the bulb will glow. So this is another important requirement. Now, based on whether materials allow current to pass through them or not, all materials are classified into 3 categories: conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. So conductors and insulators are the 2 extremes. Conductors, they allow current to pass through them. So they have very high conductivity. Conductivity is the ability to conduct electricity. It is the ability to allow electricity or electric current to pass through them. So they have very high conductivity. Whereas insulators, they do not allow. So they have very low conductivity. So they do not allow current to pass through them. So these insulators are also known as poor conductors. And many a times the conductors are also called as good conductors. So some examples of good conductors are metals, water. These are good conductors, whereas plastic, wood, glass, these are all examples of insulators. So if you take a material made up of plastic, and even if you put it in direct contact with a live wire carrying current, you will not get electric shock, because the plastic will not allow electricity to pass through it, and therefore you will not experience any electric current. But in case you hold a piece of metal in your hand and then you put it in contact with a live wire carrying current, in that case you will get electric shock, because the metal will allow electric current to pass through it. Then what are semiconductors? Semiconductors, the name itself defines it. It is like intermediate between conductors and insulators. So they have intermediate conductivity. It is not that they are very good conductors. At the same time, it is not that they do not allow current to pass through them at all. So they have like intermediate conductivity. Partially they allow current to pass through them. So some examples of semiconductors are silicon, germanium, gallium arsenide, etc. So here in this lesson we will be focusing more on conductors and insulators. So semiconductors are something which you will learn in your higher classes in 12th. So because right now this is the basics. So where you are just learning what is electric current, what happens when current flows. So you will only focus on the basics. So let's see how adding materials to the circuit can affect the current flow within the circuit. Now let's say we add a new substance to the circuit which is made up of a new material. So now you may ask that how do I know that if a substance is a good conductor or a poor conductor? Because if the substance is a poor conductor, it will not allow electric current to pass through the circuit. So let us look at this scenario. So what we do is we make a small circuit where we take a bulb, we connect it to a battery. So this cell is nothing but a battery which has a positive and a negative terminal. So we connect it to the battery, and then we also connect it to the material. So let's say the material in this case is something which is made up of a metal. Okay, so when we connect it with the metal, what happens, and when we make the circuit complete by switching it on, we see that the bulb glows. Now if the bulb glows, what does that mean? That means that current flows through the circuit. So if current is flowing through the circuit, what does it mean? This particular material which has been added to the circuit is a good conductor. That is why current is able to flow through the circuit, because had it been a poor conductor, it would have not allowed current to flow through it. So in that case, the circuit would have been broken and therefore the bulb would have not glown. Similarly, let's say you put a plastic bottle within the circuit. Now in this case, what happens, even when you switch it on, the bulb doesn't glow, which shows that current doesn't flow through the circuit. So current doesn't flow. And why the current doesn't flow? Because plastic is a poor conductor of electricity. So it doesn't allow current to pass through it, and therefore the circuit is not complete. So anytime for any circuit to be complete, now why I am always taking this example of bulb? Because it helps you to understand the concept easily. So whenever you have any circuit, so the first criteria is that the circuit has to be complete. The second criteria is that all the materials involved in the circuit, whether it is the wires or it is any other substance which is present in the circuit, they all should be good conductors of electricity. Only then current will be able to flow through the circuit. So that is the second requirement. So the bulb glows only when conducting materials are present in the circuit. So this is again very, very important. So whichever points are important, I am focusing them because those are the criteria which need to be satisfied for a bulb to glow in a circuit, or in other words, for electric current to flow through a circuit. Now, since we were talking about conductors and insulators, so let us look at a variety of examples of various substances and let's try to classify them as conductors and insulators. So if you talk about a key, a metal key, what do you think? Will it be a conductor or insulator? So metals are conductors of electricity. So this is going to be a conductor. If you talk about, let's say, a glass bangle, as you see here. So what is glass? Glass is an insulator. It is a poor conductor of electricity. You talk about an iron nail. Again, iron is a metal and it is a good conductor of electricity. Talk about matchstick. It is made up of wood and wood is insulator. So therefore, these wooden plank is also an insulator of electricity. You talk about rubber or anything made up of rubber. So that is also insulator. Talk about plastics. A hell lot of substances are made up of plastics and they are all insulators. You think of water. So what do you think? Water is good conductor or poor conductor? So now there is something interesting with regards to water. Now when you talk about pure water or distilled water, So that is insulator. So if you talk about extremely pure water, so extremely pure water is nothing but the distilled water. So that distilled water is an insulator of electricity. But when you talk about the normal tap water, as you can see here, so this tap water contains a lot of salts, minerals and ions in it. And due to their presence, it becomes a good conductor of electricity. So in general, when we talk about water, we mostly talk about the water which come from the taps and the bore wells, which contain minerals and ions, and that is why we say that it is a good conductor of electricity. So you would have noticed that your parents often tell you that do not touch electric circuits with wet hands. So you are not advised to touch the open electric sockets with wet hands, because water is a good conductor of electricity, and that's how if you try touching a wire through which current is flowing, you might get an electric shock. You think of air. So air is again an insulator of electricity. So through air, electricity doesn't conduct. Think of another interesting example, that is the human body. So our body itself is a good conductor of electricity. So that sounds surprising, but that's true. And that is why we experience electric shock. So whenever we touch a current carrying naked wire with our hands, what happens is our body is good conductor. So current starts flowing through our body, and that's how we experience electric shock. But if we are wearing say a gloves made up of rubber, and then we are touching a live wire, we will not get electric shock, because rubber is a poor conductor of electricity. So it will block the current from flowing, and that's how we will be protected from electric shock. So these are some examples of conductors and insulators. So now, since we saw that if we want to check if any substance is a good conductor or a bad conductor, what we can do is we can just introduce it in a small circuit, and then we can see whether the current is flowing through the circuit or not. Right, so that circuit itself acts as a tester, so it can test the conductivity of various substances. But how do we know that the tester which we are using, that tester is perfect or not? So how do we test that tester circuit? So this is how we do it. So this is our tester circuit, where we have a bulb, we have a battery, we connect the bulb and the battery, and then we leave these two ends free. So how do we connect these two ends? These two ends we connect with that unknown substance. So if that unknown substance is good conductor, then the bulb will glow. If that unknown substance is a poor conductor, the bulb will not glow. So that's the logic which we followed, right? How do we know that this tester is working fine? So for that purpose, what we do is we connect the free ends of the tester. So when we join the two free ends of the tester, the bulb should glow. So if the bulb is glowing, that means the tester is working, because that means the current is flowing through this circuit. So now if we introduce some object which is a good conductor, in that case also the bulb should glow. But if we are introducing something which is an insulator, then it is quite obvious that the bulb will not glow, because current will not be allowed to flow through the circuit.
I hope that my dear children, you would have found this video on electricity and circuits useful. If at all you have a feedback to share with me, or you want me to know something about your experience with this lesson, do let me know in the comment section. I'll make sure that I read your comment and also reply to it. Okay, and I will meet you all very soon with the next video with a new topic. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.